Hello again, this is Victor James, author of that new book in the megacosm called The Narikomin that is available wherever books are sold, so get your copy now. I want to talk about one of the greatest best friends in cinema history, a man who always had your back and would cast off his life of riches and luxury just to get revenge for you when everyone else has run away. And that man is Mark Lee from A Better Tomorrow, a real one. When I made my TMT video a few weeks back about A Better Tomorrow, I left out getting into any details about Mark because he deserved his own video. Even growing up with the likes of an Optimus Prime to see what a true friend was, I was shocked by Mark's fierce loyalty when I first watched A Better Tomorrow as a teenager. Mark was a triad gangster running a counterfeit bill operation with his partner Sung Se-ho. Mark was young, brash, capable, funny, and deadly, and was loyal to his friend Ho. Even though Ho's brother Kit was joining the police force, Mark kept a friendly relationship with him, treating him as a little brother. Yet Ho was ready to retire, promising his father he would retire to save Kit from having a criminal brother after one last deal. Ho convinces Mark to stay behind as he goes with Shing, an up-and-coming triad member, to work out a deal with the Taiwanese triad. Yet things go south during the deal, and Ho is ambushed by the gangsters and is wounded in a shootout. With the sense of honor that he shared with Mark, Ho takes a fall for Shing and is arrested while Shing gets away. Mark is devastated by the news, reading about his friend's Ho arrest in the paper the next day. Mark forgoes his wealth, status, and relative safety to fly to Taiwan. Setting up his kill, Mark laces guns in the hallway before he walks in on the Taiwanese gangsters who betrayed Ho. Wasting no time with words, Mark takes his revenge on Ho, mowing them down like a Terminator. Mark was careless, missing the fact that one of the men was wounded but alive, and Mark was shot in the leg before he was able to kill the last survivor. Now you would think that revenge act alone would put Mark in the pantheon of world-class best friends, but Mark's story didn't end there. When Ho was released from prison 3 years later, he was a changed man. Out of the mob and out of money, he sought out Mark, only to find that he too was falling on hard times. With Mark's injury and Ho's imprisonment, Shing rose through the ranks of the triads, and we see Mark as destitute, living as a vagrant as he limps from his injury and services Shing's car. With no regard for Mark, Shing tosses his tip on the ground, forcing the once proud man to pick it up. Ho is devastated to see Mark in such a state, as Mark has kept his condition a secret in the letters he sent to Ho in prison. With the two finally reunited, Shing tries to convince Ho to return to crime, but Ho stands up for Mark, berating Shing for the way he treated his best friend, and the two walk away together. But Shing wouldn't let the slight go, and sends his henchmen to the cab stand Ho works at to trash the place. Mark is there and is nearly beaten to death as a message to Ho, but luckily Ho arrives and the capstan employees are able to chase off the bandits. Even with his brutal injuries, Mark implores Ho to stand up for himself and take the fight to Shing. But Ho is caught between a normal life and reconciling with his little brother, Kit, who hates him. You see, the Taiwanese triad had sent hitmen to his father's house to keep Ho quiet, which resulted in his father's death that Kit blames on Ho. And Kit is not being promoted at work due to having a criminal brother. And after 3 years, with his loss of wealth, dignity, and living under Shing's thumb, Mark wants to take back what's rightfully theirs. Taking matters in his own hands, Mark infiltrates the Triad headquarters and steals the counterfeiting printing tape. Mark uses this tape as ransom for $2 million and a boat to escape. Ho eventually changes his mind and decides to aid Mark in his plan. Working together once again, Mark and Ho are there for the trade, taking Shing hostage to ensure they get the money and are able to leave. However, Kit was given a heads up by Ho himself, who had given his girlfriend the real tape as proof of Shing's crime, and he shows up at the drop, only to be taken hostage by Shing's men. Ho implores Mark to escape with the money while he trades Shing for Kit. Reluctantly, Mark takes the money and boat, but you can tell that decision is eating him up inside. Mark is well on his way to freedom and riches until he hears the gunfire as a switch for Kit turns into a shootout. Now, a normal man will run away from the rapid gunfire, but Mark quickly turns the boat around, arming his machine gun. Mark fires from the boat, saving Kit and Ho and giving them time to gain cover. Although he's still handicapped from his gunshot injuries, Mark is an engine of destruction, turning the tide of the battle as he makes it to Kit and Ho. When Kit is still cold and resentful at Ho, Mark becomes infuriated, berating Kit for not seeing that Ho has changed. Mark begs Kit to finally forgive Ho, but makes one fatal mistake. And this really tore me up the first time I watched it, almost as bad as seeing Optimus Prime die. Given Mark's injuries, he stands up just too far and is mercilessly gunned down in a hail of bullets by Shing. But the time he took turning back gave his brothers the time to reconcile and turn the tide against Shing. Yes, Mark was a criminal, but he truly had a big heart. Mark took the easy way to money, but he kept his humanity, remaining loyal to Ho and even Kit, sacrificing everything to make things right for his best friend and to restore his family. Mark is the type of friend you want as a partner, the kind of man you want at your back as you go into battle. Mark literally took a bullet for Ho, living a downtrodden life for 3 years waiting for his friend to return, and spurred him into action after he was all but defeated. You would be hard pressed to find a more real friend than Mark Lee in all of cinema. And that's why he's a real one. And I wanted to remind you about my website, themegacosm.com. Here you can keep up with the latest information about the Megacosm, as well as read short stories for free. As an added bonus, I have the first chapters of my novels for free as well, just so you can read a sample and decide later if you want to buy the novel. I also have links to the articles I write for Bleeding Fool, and I have recently launched a Megacosm merch store with t-shirts that feature the Fiasco logo, as well as my publishing imprint. And I also have baby onesies because, well, they just look cool cosplaying as Fiasco. But God bless you and keep you. That's it, I'm done.